The November rain hadn't started yet, but Valentina could feel it coming. The sky over Manhattan hung low and gray, pressing down on the city like a held breath. She stood on the corner of 5th Avenue and 52nd Street, staring up at the obsidian tower that housed Whitmore and Associates, the most expensive law firm in New York, the kind of place where fortunes were divided and legacies destroyed with the stroke of a pen. She checked her reflection in the building's mirrored exterior. Perfect. The black Armani dress hugged her frame like armor, elegant but severe. Her dark hair was pulled back tight, emphasizing the sharp lines of her face, a face that had learned to hide everything. At 29, Valentina Moretti had perfected the art of the mask. 3 years ago, Dante Caruso had shattered her into pieces. Today, she would collect what he owed her. The smirk came naturally as she pushed through the revolving doors. The lobby was all marble and cold ambition. Her heels clicked against the floor with a rhythm that sounded like a countdown. The elevator ride to the 42nd floor felt eternal, and Valentina used every second to fortify herself. She thought about the last time she'd seen Dante. Really seen him, not just glimpsed in newspaper photos or heard about through whispered rumors. Get out, Valentina. Get out and never come back. His voice had been ice that night. They'd been in his penthouse, the city lights sprawling beneath them like scattered diamonds. She'd found the photographs, evidence of things she was never supposed to see. Bodies, money, betrayals that went deeper than she could comprehend. You don't understand what you're looking at, he'd said, his hand gripping her wrist hard enough to bruise. And you never will. We're done. He'd had his men escort her out. She'd left with nothing but the clothes on her back and a heart that felt like shattered glass. For months she'd hidden, changed her number, moved apartments 3 times. Slowly, painfully, she'd rebuilt herself, and now he was dead. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. The reception area of Whitmore and Associates was designed to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Manhattan skyline. Abstract art that probably cost more than most people's homes hung on walls the color of gunmetal. A receptionist with a practiced smile gestured toward a set of double doors. Ms. Moretti? They're waiting for you in conference room A. Valentina's heart hammered against her ribs, but her face remained serene. She nodded and walked forward. The conference room was a cathedral of wealth and power. A massive table of polished walnut dominated the space, surrounded by leather chairs that probably cost $5,000 each. And there, scattered around the table like pieces on a chessboard, were the other players in Dante's final game. Marco Caruso sat at the head of the table naturally, Dante's younger brother by 4 years, but you'd never know it from looking at him. While Dante had been all controlled power and dangerous elegance, Marco was rougher, a fighter who'd never quite learned to hide the violence beneath his expensive suits. His dark eyes tracked Valentina as she entered, and something flickered there. Resentment? Fear? She couldn't tell. Beside him sat Sofia Castellano, 41, impeccably dressed in a charcoal gray suit. Sofia had been Dante's business partner for the legitimate ventures, the restaurants, the real estate holdings, the import companies that actually imported legal goods. Her expression was unreadable, but Valentina noticed the way her fingers drummed once, twice against the table. Nervous. 2 men stood near the windows, and Valentina recognized the type immediately. Enforcers. Dante's men. Or Marco's now, she supposed. They didn't sit. Men like that never sat during business. They watched, waited, ready to enforce whatever decisions were made in rooms like this. And at the far end of the table, a man in his 60s with silver hair and wire-rimmed glasses organized a stack of papers with meticulous care. The lawyer, Richard Whitmore himself, senior partner, the man who'd handled the Caruso family's legal affairs for 3 decades. Ms. Moretti, Whitmore said, his voice carrying the smooth authority of someone who'd delivered both good news and devastation with equal professionalism. Please sit. Valentina chose a seat directly across from Marco. She wanted him to see her face when the will was read. Wanted him to see her win. Now that everyone's here, Whitmore began, adjusting his glasses, we can proceed with the reading of Dante Michael Caruso's last will and testament. The room fell silent except for the muted sounds of the city 42 floors below. Valentina's hands rested on the table, perfectly still, but inside she was electric with anticipation. Whitmore opened a leather folder and began to read. I, Dante Michael Caruso, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament, revoking all previous wills and codicils. The legal preamble washed over Valentina. She barely heard it. Her mind was already racing forward, imagining the moment her name would be called. Imagining the look on Marco's face when he realized his brother had given everything to the woman he'd cast aside. It would be perfect revenge. To my brother, Marco Anthony Caruso, Whitmore continued, I leave the operational control of all business entities under the Caruso Family Trust, including but not limited to construction, waste management, and freight logistics operations. Marco's face remained stone, but Valentina saw his jaw tighten. The legitimate businesses, or what passed for legitimate in Dante's world, were worth millions, but everyone in this room knew they were just the visible surface of something much deeper. To Sofia Castellano, Whitmore read, I leave full ownership of Castellano Caruso Holdings, including all real estate properties, restaurants, and import companies, valued at approximately $43 million, in recognition of her loyalty and friendship. Sofia's breath caught, just barely, but Valentina heard it. 43 million. A fortune. And yet, Valentina knew it was nothing compared to what Dante really controlled. The offshore accounts. The cash businesses. The empire built on fear and blood. That empire should be hers. To Vincent Morales and Anthony DeLuca, the lawyer continued, nodding toward the two enforcers by the window, I leave $1 million each in my gratitude for years of faithful service. The men nodded but said nothing. Valentina's pulse quickened. Her name had to be next. It had to be. Whitmore turned a page, and something in his expression shifted. A hesitation. A beat of silence that felt like the moment before a storm breaks. However, he said, and that single word changed everything. I must inform you all that Mr. Caruso executed a codicil to this will last night at 11:47 p.m., approximately 17 minutes before his death. The room exploded with sound. What? Marco surged to his feet, hands slamming against the table. That's impossible. He was dying. He couldn't have. I assure you, Mr. Caruso, it's entirely legal and properly witnessed, Whitmore said calmly, though Valentina noticed his hand trembled slightly as he reached for another document. Mr. Caruso was conscious and coherent when he contacted me at 11:30 p.m. I arrived at the hospital at 11:40 p.m. with two witnesses from my firm. He dictated the changes, signed the document, and it was notarized. Everything is in order. Valentina's smirk had frozen on her face. Her mind raced. 17 minutes before his death. Dante had been dying. Everyone knew that. The heart attack had struck him during a meeting, massive and catastrophic. He'd been rushed to Mount Sinai, barely alive. The doctors had given him minutes, maybe an hour, and he'd used those final minutes to rewrite his will. Why? The codicil makes the following changes, Whitmore continued, his voice cutting through the chaos. To Valentina Rose Moretti, I leave the contents of storage unit number 237 at Brooklyn Secure Storage, along with this sealed letter. He held up a cream-colored envelope, Valentina's name written across it in handwriting she recognized immediately. Dante's handwriting. Strong. Precise. Each letter formed with the same control he'd applied to everything in his life. That was it? A storage unit and a letter? Valentina's hands clenched beneath the table, nails digging into her palms. Around her she could feel the confusion rippling through the room. Marco had sat back down, but his face was flushed with anger. Sofia looked between Valentina and the lawyer, clearly trying to piece something together. What's in the storage unit? Marco demanded. I don't know, Whitmore admitted. Mr. Caruso was very specific that only Ms. Moretti should access it. He also left these instructions. He held up another paper. That must be read aloud now. The lawyer cleared his throat and read, Valentina, you're wondering why. You're angry. You think I've betrayed you one last time. But everything I did to protect you. The storage unit contains the truth. What you do with it will determine whether you survive the next 72 hours. Trust no one in this room. They all have blood on their hands, including the blood you think is mine. Open the letter alone. Read it carefully. And forgive me if you can. D.C. Silence crashed over the conference room like a wave. Valentina felt like the floor had dropped away beneath her. Her mind stuttered over the words. Whether you survive the next 72 hours? What did that mean? And the blood? They all have blood on their hands, including the blood you think is mine. What the hell does that mean? Marco's voice was dangerously low. He stood again, and this time the enforcers moved closer, as if anticipating violence. What game are you playing, Valentina? I don't know what he's talking about, she said, and was surprised to find her voice steady. I haven't seen Dante in 3 years. Convenient. Marco spat. My brother dies suddenly, and somehow you're here, collecting mysterious inheritances. Mr. Caruso, Whitmore interrupted firmly. Your brother's death was ruled a heart attack by the medical examiner. There's no mystery there. But Marco wasn't listening. He was staring at Valentina with an expression that made her skin crawl. Hatred. Pure, undiluted hatred. You poisoned him against me, Marco said quietly. Even from the grave, he chooses you over his own blood. That's not— Get out. Marco's voice was a whip crack. Take your letter and your storage unit and get the hell out of my sight. Valentina stood slowly, deliberately. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing her run. Whitmore handed her the sealed envelope and a small key, presumably to the storage unit. She took them, her fingers brushing against the paper that held Dante's final words to her. Ms. Moretti, Whitmore said quietly as she turned to leave. One more thing. Mr. Caruso asked me to tell you that your life depends on what you do next. He was very insistent about that. I suggest you take his warning seriously. The words followed her out of the conference room, down the elevator, through the lobby. By the time Valentina burst through the revolving doors onto Fifth Avenue, the rain had started. Cold, hard drops that felt like accusations. She walked 3 blocks before her legs gave out. She found herself in the doorway of a closed boutique, shaking, the envelope clutched in her hands. Around her, New York moved with its usual indifference, business people hurrying past under umbrellas, taxis honking, the million small dramas of the city playing out. And Valentina stood there, holding a dead man's letter, wondering what the hell he'd done to her now. Trust no one in this room. Your life depends on what you do next. Forgive me, if you can. With trembling fingers, she broke the seal. The letter remained folded in Valentina's lap as she sat in her car, parked 3 blocks from the law office. Rain hammered against the windshield, turning the world outside into a blur of gray and shadow. She'd been sitting here for 20 minutes, unable to move, unable to think beyond the thundering of her own heartbeat. Finally, she unfolded the paper. The handwriting was unmistakably Dante's, those strong, controlled strokes that matched everything about the man he'd been. But there was something different about it now, a slight tremor in some letters, the writing of a dying man. Valentina, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. I know what you're thinking, that I'm a bastard even in death, that I'm playing games with you one last time. Maybe you're right. But if there's any part of you that remembers what we had, that remembers the man I was before the family consumed everything, then listen carefully. You think I destroyed you 3 years ago. You think I threw you away like you meant nothing. The truth is worse and better than you imagine. I pushed you away because they were coming for you, Valentina. My enemies, and some who called themselves my friends, they knew my weakness. They knew it was you. I had a choice. Watch them hurt you to get to me, or hurt you myself and send you somewhere they'd never look. I chose to be the villain in your story, so you could have a story at all. Valentina's vision blurred. She blinked hard, refusing to let tears fall. Not yet. Not until she understood. The storage unit contains my real empire. Not the businesses, not the money. Those are just tools. What I'm giving you is information. Evidence. The kind that ends careers and lives. Every dirty cop on my payroll. Every politician I owned. Every rival family's secrets. And most importantly, the truth about my death. They killed me, Valentina. It wasn't a heart attack no matter what the medical examiner says. Marco ordered it. My own brother. He's been planning this for months, consolidating power, turning my people against me. He thinks he's won. He thinks inheriting my legitimate businesses gives him control. He's wrong. You have the real power now. Use it carefully. Trust Agent Rebecca Chen at the FBI. She's been investigating my organization for 2 years, and she's one of the few honest ones left. Show her what's in the storage unit. But Valentina, be smart. Marco will come for you the moment he realizes what you have. He can't let you live with this knowledge. I'm sorry. For everything. For the years I stole from you. For the woman you had to become because of me. For dying and leaving you with this burden. But you're stronger than you know. You survived me. You can survive this. The key opens Unit 237 at Brooklyn Secure Storage, Red Hook. Go tonight. Go alone. And whatever you find there, whatever you decide to do with it, know that my last thought was of you. I loved you. I love you still, even if you never believe it. D. The paper crumpled in Valentina's grip. Her breath came in short, sharp gasps. The rain outside seemed to intensify, as if the sky itself was mourning. He'd loved her. He'd pushed her away to save her. And now he'd given her the weapon to destroy the people who'd killed him. Or the weapon to destroy herself. Valentina looked at the key in her other hand. Small, silver, ordinary. It felt impossibly heavy. Go tonight. Go alone. She checked the time on her dashboard. 4:47 p.m. In Brooklyn, with rush hour traffic, it would take at least an hour to reach Red Hook. Longer in this rain. But Dante had said her life depended on the next 72 hours. That timeline had already started. Valentina started the engine. Brooklyn Secure Storage sat in an industrial wasteland near the waterfront. The kind of neighborhood where luxury condos hadn't quite reached yet, where old warehouses still stood like tombstones to a different era of New York. The rain had followed her across the bridge. Relentless. The facility was surrounded by chain-link fence topped with barbed wire. Security cameras dotted the perimeter. A single guard sat in a booth at the entrance, barely looking up from his phone as Valentina pulled up to the gate. "Help you?" he asked, his voice carrying the particular boredom of someone working the evening shift in the rain. "I have a unit here. Number 237. He checked his computer, squinting at the screen. Name? Valentina Moretti. His fingers clicked across the keyboard. A pause, then, "Yeah, okay. You're on the list. Added today, actually." He handed her a clipboard. "Sign here. Unit's close at midnight, but you can stay as long as you need." As long as she needed. She wondered if Dante had arranged that too. Probably. He'd always been thorough. The guard opened the gate, and Valentina drove into the maze of storage buildings. Unit 237 was in the back section, C building, 3rd floor. She parked in the nearly empty lot, grabbed a flashlight from her glove compartment, and stepped out into the rain. The building was brutally utilitarian. Concrete floors, fluorescent lights that buzzed and flickered, the smell of dust and old cardboard. Her footsteps echoed as she climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. The hallway stretched before her, lined with identical orange doors, each marked with black numbers. 235, 236, 237. Valentina stood in front of the door, key in hand. This was it. Whatever was behind this door would change everything. She could turn around. She could throw the key in the East River and walk away. Rebuild her life for the second time. Stay away from the Caruso family and their blood-soaked empire. But Dante's words echoed in her mind. "They killed me." Marco ordered it. She inserted the key and turned. The lock clicked open. The storage unit was 10 feet by 10 feet, and it was full. Cardboard boxes stacked 4 high covered most of the floor space. A small folding table held a laptop, expensive, new, and a portable hard drive. On top of the nearest box, another envelope with her name on it. Valentina picked it up and tore it open. "Valentina, if you're reading this, you came. I wasn't sure you would, thank you. The laptop is clean, untraceable. Password is the date we met. You remember? The hard drive contains digital copies of everything in these boxes. Take it with you. Hide it somewhere safe. Start with box 1. It will explain everything. D. The date they met." Valentina's hands trembled as she typed. 05/17/2019. The laptop came to life. Box 1 sat at the front, marked with a red 1 in Dante's handwriting. She pulled it down and opened it. Files, dozens of them. Manila folders organized with obsessive precision, each labeled and dated. She pulled out the first one. NYPD Detective Michael Torres, Shield number 4872. Inside, bank statements showing deposits that didn't match a detective's salary. Photographs of Torres meeting with known Caruso associates. Recorded conversations. Transcripts printed out, where Torres provided information about ongoing investigations in exchange for cash. Valentina's stomach turned. She grabbed another folder. FBI, Special Agent David Morrison. More of the same. Payments, meetings, betrayals. Another folder. State Senator Patricia Lynch. And another, Judge Harold Weinstein. Box 1 wasn't just evidence. It was a map of corruption that ran through every level of New York's government and law enforcement. Dante had owned dozens of people, and now Valentina held the proof. She moved to box 2. This one was different. The folders here were thicker, more detailed. Marco Caruso, personal file. Her breath caught. She opened it. The first document was a financial record showing massive withdrawals from Caruso family accounts over the past 18 months. Millions of dollars, moved through shell companies and offshore accounts. But it wasn't just theft. There were emails, printed out, highlighted, where Marco discussed handling the Dante problem with someone named Vincent Rossi. Valentina knew that name. Rossi was a capo in the Lucchese family, the Caruso's biggest rivals. She read further. Her hands began to shake. Marco had been planning a coup. He'd secretly aligned with the Lucchese family, offering them territory and operations in exchange for their support. But he needed Dante out of the way first. The emails detailed the plan, a toxin called digitalis, virtually undetectable when administered correctly, that would cause symptoms identical to a heart attack. They killed me, Valentina. Marco ordered it. It was all here. Proof, names, dates, bank transfers paying off the hospital staff, a copy of the false medical examiner's report alongside notes about what a real autopsy would have shown. Dante hadn't died of natural causes. He'd been murdered by his own brother. Valentina sat back on her heels, the folder falling from her hands. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Outside she could hear the rain pounding against the building, steady and relentless. Everything Dante had written in his letter was true. She forced herself to keep going. Box 3 contained information on the Lucchese family, their operations, their weaknesses, their own secrets. Box 4 was financial records for the Caruso empire, the real empire, not just the legitimate businesses, hundreds of millions in assets, hidden across dozens of countries. Box 5 made her stop completely. It was photographs, not of criminals or corruption, but of her and Dante. Pictures she'd never known existed. The two of them at a restaurant, her laughing at something he'd said. Walking through Central Park in autumn, her asleep in his bed while he watched over her, his expression unguarded in a way she'd rarely seen. Beneath the photos, a journal, black leather, worn at the edges. She opened it to a random page. July 23rd, 2021. Valentina asked me today why I don't talk about my family. What could I tell her? That my father built this empire on the bones of better men? That my brother resents every breath I take because he thinks he deserves my place? That everything I touch turns to blood and ash? She deserves better than this. Better than me. But God help me, I'm too selfish to let her go. Valentina flipped forward through the entries. Page after page of Dante's private thoughts. His love for her. His hatred of the life he'd been born into. His growing realization that Marco was becoming dangerous. The last entry was dated November 15, 2024, 3 days before his death. Marco confronted me tonight. He knows I'm planning to leave, to take Valentina and disappear. 25 years building this empire, and I'm ready to burn it all down for a woman who makes me want to be someone different. He didn't take it well. Made threats, thinly veiled, but threats nonetheless. Said the family comes first. Said I'm weak. Maybe he's right. Maybe loving her is my weakness. But it's the only good thing I've ever done. I've made arrangements. If something happens to me, Valentina will have everything she needs. The evidence, the truth, the power to destroy them all. It's the only gift I have left to give her. The ability to choose, to fight back or walk away. Either way, she'll be free of me. My last act of love is giving her the power I once took away. The journal fell from Valentina's hands. She was crying now, hot tears streaming down her face. All these years she'd hated him, thought he'd discarded her like trash, built walls around her heart so thick she'd convinced herself they were unbreakable. But he'd loved her. All along he'd loved her, and now he was gone. Valentina sat in that storage unit, surrounded by evidence of corruption and murder, and let herself break. Great, heaving sobs that echoed in the concrete space, for the man she'd loved, for the life they might have had, for the impossible burden he'd left her with. When the tears finally stopped, she felt hollow, empty, but also, strangely, clear. Dante had given her a choice. She could take this evidence to the FBI, watch Marco and his co-conspirators go to prison, get justice for Dante's murder, or she could walk away, burn it all, pretend none of this existed, and build a life far away from the Caruso family's poison. She thought about the Valentina she'd been 3 years ago, young, naive, in love with a dangerous man, and blind to what that really meant, that Valentina would have been paralyzed by this choice. But she wasn't that woman anymore. Valentina stood, wiping her eyes. She carefully packed up the laptop and hard drive. She closed the boxes, memorizing their contents. Then she pulled out her phone and searched for a name. Rebecca Chen, FBI. The search returned an official FBI profile. Special Agent Rebecca Chen, Organized Crime Division. There was a contact number for the New York field office. Valentina stared at it for a long moment. Once she made this call, there was no going back. She would be declaring war on Marco Caruso and everyone who'd helped him. These people killed without hesitation. They'd already murdered Dante. They wouldn't think twice about killing her. But Dante had trusted her with this, had believed she was strong enough to see it through. She started to dial. Her phone buzzed. An incoming call from an unknown number. Valentina's blood ran cold. She stared at the screen, every instinct screaming danger. She let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Then, against her better judgment, she answered. "Hello?" Heavy breathing on the other end. Then a voice, digitally distorted. "We know you're at the storage unit, Valentina. We know what he left you. You have 48 hours to deliver all of it. Every file, every recording, every piece of evidence. To the address I'm about to text you. If you don't, you're next." The line went dead. Valentina's hands shook so badly she almost dropped the phone. A text came through immediately. An address in Queens. No other information. She stood frozen in the storage unit, suddenly aware of how isolated she was, how vulnerable. Brooklyn Secure Storage was nearly empty at this hour. No witnesses, no help. They knew she was here. They'd been watching. Valentina grabbed the laptop and hard drive, shoved them in her bag and ran. Down the corridor, down the stairs, her footsteps thundering. She burst through the exit door into the rain-soaked parking lot. Her car sat where she'd left it, dark and silent. She approached cautiously, checking the shadows between buildings. Nothing moved. The lot was empty except for 2 other cars parked near the entrance. She unlocked her car remotely, the lights flashing. No explosion, no ambush. She threw her bag in the passenger seat and started the engine, tires squealing as she accelerated toward the exit. The guard barely looked up as she flew past his booth. Only when she was back on the street, merging into traffic, did Valentina allow herself to breathe. Her mind raced. They'd been watching the storage facility. Maybe they had someone inside. The guard? One of the other tenants? It didn't matter how. What mattered was, they knew, and they'd given her 48 hours. Valentina drove aimlessly through Brooklyn, constantly checking her mirrors, taking random turns. Finally, when she was sure no one was following, she pulled into a 24-hour diner in Park Slope. Inside, the warmth and normalcy felt surreal. Families eating late dinners, a couple sharing dessert, the ordinary world spinning on, oblivious to the war she'd just stepped into. She ordered coffee she wouldn't drink and opened the laptop. Dante's hard drive contained hundreds of gigabytes of data. It would take days to go through it all properly, but she had hours, not days. Valentina started clicking through files, trying to understand the full scope of what Dante had collected. It was overwhelming. Years of evidence. Enough to bring down dozens of people across multiple crime families and corrupt officials. And someone was willing to kill her to keep it hidden. Her phone buzzed again. Another text. "The clock is ticking, Valentina. We're not patient people." She stared at the message, then did something that surprised even herself. She typed back, "I need proof Marco killed Dante. Then we'll talk." The response came immediately. "You already have all the proof you need. 47 hours now." Valentina's coffee sat cold on the table. Outside, the rain had finally stopped, leaving the streets slick and reflective under the streetlights. She thought about Dante's last words to her in that letter. "You're stronger than you know. You survived me. You can survive this." She pulled up the FBI contact information again. This time she didn't hesitate. She dialed the number. A woman's voice answered on the 3rd ring. "FBI New York Field Office, how may I direct your call?" "Special Agent Rebecca Chen, please. Tell her." Valentina took a breath. "Tell her Valentina Moretti is calling about Dante Caruso, and that I have something she needs to see." The coffee shop where Agent Rebecca Chen suggested they meet was deliberately anonymous. A Starbucks in Midtown, the kind of place where hundreds of people passed through every hour, and no one remembered anyone. Valentina arrived 15 minutes early, ordering a latte she had no intention of drinking, and claimed a table in the corner with a clear view of the entrance. It was 9:30 a.m. She'd been awake for 32 hours straight. After calling the FBI last night, Chen had agreed to meet but insisted on waiting until morning in a public place. "If what you're saying is true," the agent had said, her voice carefully neutral, "then you're in danger. Don't go home. Don't go anywhere predictable. Find a hotel, pay cash, and text me the meeting location in the morning. Valentina had followed the instructions, spending the night in a budget hotel in Queens, the laptop and hard drive hidden in her bag, a chair wedged against the door. She'd tried to sleep, but every sound in the hallway made her bolt upright, heart hammering. By dawn, she'd given up and started going through more files. What she'd found made her blood run cold. Now, clutching her untouched latte, she watched the door. Business people rushed in for their morning caffeine fix. Tourists studied the menu with exaggerated confusion. A mother tried to manage 3 young children while ordering. And then she saw her. Agent Rebecca Chen was exactly what Valentina expected and nothing like she'd imagined. Mid-30s, Chinese-American, dressed in a dark pantsuit that screamed federal agent but somehow managed to look approachable. She had sharp eyes that swept the coffee shop methodically before landing on Valentina, their gazes locked. Chen approached carrying a tall black coffee. She sat down without invitation, her body language relaxed but alert. Up close, Valentina could see the fatigue around her eyes. This was a woman who'd seen too much and slept too little. "Ms. Moretti," Chen said quietly, "you look terrified. Is it that obvious? Only to someone who knows what to look for." Chen took a sip of her coffee. "Before we go any further, I need to tell you something. I've been investigating Dante Caruso's organization for 2 years. I knew who you were. We had surveillance photos of you and him together, back when you were involved." Valentina's hands tightened around her cup. "You were watching us?" "We were watching him. You were just in the frame." Chen's expression softened slightly. "For what it's worth, I always wondered if you knew what he really did. My instinct said no. You didn't have the look." "What look?" "The look people get when they're complicit. You looked in love. There's a difference." Chen leaned forward slightly. "So when you disappeared 3 years ago, I assumed he'd ended it. Probably for your own safety. Dante Caruso was a lot of things, but he wasn't careless with people he cared about." The words hit Valentina harder than she expected. She blinked back sudden tears. "He's dead." "I know. Heart attack. According to the ME." Chen's eyes narrowed. "But you called me, which means you don't think it was a heart attack." Valentina glanced around the coffee shop. No one was paying attention to them. She reached into her bag and pulled out a USB drive. She'd copied a portion of the hard drive's contents last night. "Everything you need is on here, but I need to tell you what I know first. Because once I hand this over, I can't take it back. Tell me." And so Valentina did. She told Chen about the will reading, about Marco's rage, about Dante's letter and the storage unit. She described the boxes of evidence, the proof of corruption spanning years and departments. And finally, voice dropping to barely above a whisper, she told Chen about Marco's plan to murder his own brother. Chen listened without interrupting, her face a careful mask of professional neutrality. But Valentina saw the way her knuckles whitened around her coffee cup when she mentioned the digitalis, the way her jaw clenched when she described Marco's alliance with the Lucchese family. When Valentina finished, Chen was silent for a long moment. Then, "Do you understand what you're telling me? You're saying that Dante Caruso, one of the most powerful organized crime figures in New York, compiled evidence against his own organization, his own people, and left it to you." "Yes." "Why you?" "Because he loved me." Valentina's voice cracked. "Because he wanted to give me the choice he never had, to fight back or walk away." Chen studied her face. "And you chose to fight. They killed him. They're threatening to kill me. What choice do I have?" "There's always a choice, Ms. Moretti." Chen reached for the USB drive. "But for what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. May I?" Valentina nodded. Chen pulled out a laptop from her bag, bureau-issued, heavily encrypted, and inserted the drive. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, opening files, scanning contents. Valentina watched her expression shift from skepticism to shock to something that looked almost like awe. "Jesus Christ," Chen breathed. I've been trying to build a RICO case against the Carusos for 2 years. This is everything. Bank records, communications, witness testimonies, and the corruption evidence." She looked up at Valentina. "Do you realize how many careers this ends? How many powerful people will want you dead when this goes public? One of them already called me last night. Gave me 48 hours to hand everything over." Valentina checked her phone. 42 hours now. Chen's expression hardened. "Did you recognize the voice?" "No. It was distorted. But they knew I was at the storage unit. They're watching me. Then we need to move fast." Chen closed the laptop. "I'm taking you into protective custody. Right now. We'll debrief you properly, Go through everything on that hard drive and build our case. But Ms. Moretti, Valentina, I need you to understand something. Once we start this, there's no stopping it. People will go to prison. People will die. And your life will never be the same. It already isn't. Chen nodded slowly. Okay, then let's... Valentina's phone buzzed. She looked down at the screen and her blood turned to ice. It was a photo. Sofia Castellano bound to a chair in what looked like a warehouse, blood trickling from her temple. The message beneath read, "Change of plans. You have 6 hours. Same address. Come alone, or she dies." "What is it?" Chen asked. Valentina turned the phone so Chen could see. The agent's face went pale. "Who is she?" "Sofia Castellano. She was Dante's business partner. She inherited his legitimate operations." Valentina's mind raced. She was at the will reading. "She's not involved in the criminal side, at least I didn't think she was." Chen grabbed her own phone, already dialing. "I'm calling this in. We can trace the photo, find the location. They'll kill her before you get there," Valentina said. "You know they will. We can't just hand over that evidence. Do you know what Marco will do with it? He'll destroy it all. And every criminal and corrupt official in those files walks free, including the people who murdered Dante." Valentina stood abruptly. "I don't care. I'm not letting someone else die because of me." "Valentina, wait." But she was already moving toward the door. Chen caught up with her on the sidewalk, grabbing her arm. "Listen to me. This is what they do. They create impossible situations. They make you choose between bad options and worse ones. You go there alone, you're dead. They'll kill you and Sofia both. Then what do you suggest?" Chen was quiet for a moment, thinking. Traffic rushed past them on 7th Avenue. The morning sun had broken through the clouds, turning the wet pavement into a field of mirrors. Finally, Chen said, "We make them think you're coming alone. But you wear a wire. We position tactical teams nearby. The moment we have evidence of a crime in progress, kidnapping, attempted murder, we move in. And if something goes wrong, if they search me and find the wire, that's the risk." Chen met her eyes. "But it's better than walking in there defenseless." Valentina thought about Sofia. She barely knew the woman. They'd exchanged maybe 10 words at the will reading. But Sofia had been loyal to Dante. And Dante had trusted her enough to leave her $43 million. That had to mean something. "Okay," Valentina said. "I'll do it." The FBI field office was a fortress of concrete and paranoia in Lower Manhattan. Chen brought Valentina in through a secure entrance, bypassing the main lobby. They moved through corridors that all looked identical. Government beige walls, fluorescent lighting, the smell of recycled air and burnt coffee. Chen's office was small, crammed with case files and a computer that looked like it belonged in a museum. But within 15 minutes, the room filled with people. Other agents, a tech specialist to set up Valentina's wire, and Chen's supervisor, a stern woman named Assistant Director Novak, who looked at Valentina like she was a particularly complicated problem to solve. "Let me be clear," Novak said, arms crossed. "This is highly irregular. We don't typically use civilian assets in active operations, especially not civilians who are targets themselves." "With respect, ma'am," Chen interjected, "we don't have time to recruit a trained UC. They gave her 6 hours. We need to move now, or we lose both the witness and the evidence." Novak turned her sharp gaze on Valentina. "Ms. Moretti, do you understand what you're agreeing to? You'll be walking into a hostage situation with known violent criminals. Even with bureau support, there are no guarantees." "I understand." "And you're willing to testify? To put yourself on record against the Caruso organization?" Valentina thought about Dante's journal. His words, "My last act of love is giving her the power I once took away." She thought about Sofia, bleeding in that photograph, about Marco, who'd murdered his own brother and would murder her without hesitation. "Yes," she said firmly. "I'll testify to all of it." Novak studied her for another long moment, then nodded. "All right. Agent Chen, this is your operation. Make it count." The next 2 hours were a blur of preparation. The tech specialist fitted Valentina with a wire so sophisticated, it was nearly invisible. A tiny microphone clipped inside her bra, a transmitter no bigger than a credit card taped to her lower back. They made her practice speaking normally, moving naturally, so the device wouldn't be detected. Other agents showed her photographs, trying to identify who might be holding Sofia. Was it Marco's people? The Lucchese family? Someone else entirely? Valentina studied the faces, enforcers, soldiers, known associates, but recognized none of them with certainty, except for Vincent Morales and Anthony DeLuca, the two men who'd been at the will reading. If you see either of them, Chen instructed, that confirms Marco's direct involvement. That's important. What if they search me? Valentina asked. What if they find the wire? Chen's expression was grim. Then you tell them the FBI forced you to wear it. You play the terrified victim. Make them believe you're just as afraid of us as you are of them. Maybe they'll think they can still use you. And if they don't believe me, then we come in fast. But Valentina, Chen gripped her shoulder. Don't be a hero. If things go sideways, you get out. You run. Let us handle the rest. At 2:45 p.m., Valentina sat in the back of an unmarked FBI vehicle, heading toward Queens. The address from the text was a warehouse district near the waterfront. Exactly the kind of location where bad things happened and no one heard you scream. Chen sat beside her, earpiece in, coordinating with the tactical teams already moving into position around the target location. Two other agents were in the front seats, both armed, both silent. We'll drop you 3 blocks away, Chen explained. You'll walk in alone, just like they said, but we'll have eyes on you the whole time. Surveillance from the buildings across the street. Aerial support from a drone. The moment we see Sofia alive, the moment we have evidence, we move. Valentina nodded, not trusting her voice. Her hands were shaking. She clasped them together in her lap, willing herself to be calm, to be strong, to be the woman Dante had believed she could be. Her phone buzzed. Another text. Warehouse 17. South entrance. You have 15 minutes. That's our confirmation, one of the agents in front said. Warehouse 17. Tactical is moving to secondary positions now. The vehicle stopped. Chen turned to Valentina. Last chance to back out. I'm not backing out. Okay. Chen's voice softened. Valentina, listen to me. Dante Caruso was a criminal. He hurt people, destroyed lives. But what he did for you, leaving you that evidence, giving you the truth, that was real. That was love, in the only way he knew how to show it. Don't let his last act be meaningless. You survive this. You testify. You make sure his death means something. Tears burned in Valentina's eyes, but she blinked them back. I will. She stepped out of the vehicle. The warehouse district was exactly as bleak as she'd imagined. Abandoned buildings with broken windows, cracked pavement sprouting weeds, the smell of salt water and industrial decay. It was eerily quiet. No traffic, no people, just the distant cry of seagulls and the sound of her own footsteps. Warehouse 17 loomed ahead, a massive structure of corrugated metal and rust. The south entrance was a rolling door, partially open, revealing darkness inside. Valentina approached slowly, every nerve screaming at her to run. But she thought of Sofia, of Dante, of everything that had led her to this moment. She ducked under the door and stepped into the warehouse. The interior was vast and dim. Scattered light filtered through holes in the roof. Old shipping containers were stacked haphazardly, creating a maze of metal corridors. And there in the center of the space, illuminated by a single work light, sat Sofia Castellano. She was still tied to the chair, but she was alive. Her eyes met Valentina's across the distance, wide, terrified, pleading. Ms. Moretti, the voice came from behind a container. So good of you to join us. A figure stepped into the light and Valentina's blood ran cold. It was Marco Caruso, but he wasn't alone. Vincent Morales and Anthony DeLuca flanked him, both armed, and behind them, emerging from the shadows, were 3 other men Valentina didn't recognize, all carrying guns, all watching her like predators watching prey. I came alone, Valentina said, hating how her voice shook. Let her go. Marco laughed, a sound devoid of humor. You think I'm stupid? You think I don't know you went to the FBI? He pulled out his phone and held it up. On the screen was a photo. Chen and Valentina sitting in Starbucks that morning. I have people everywhere, Valentina. Even in places you think are safe. Valentina's mind raced. Someone had been watching. Someone had photographed their meeting, which meant Marco knew about the USB drive. Knew Chen had seen the evidence. The FBI forced me to meet with them, Valentina said, trying to keep her voice steady. They knew about the storage unit. They threatened to arrest me if I didn't cooperate. Is that right? Marco stepped closer. His face was a mask of rage barely contained. And what did you tell them? Nothing. I didn't have time to tell them anything. You sent me that picture of Sofia before I could. Liar. The word was a whip crack. Marco was in front of her now, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Expensive. Suffocating. My brother always did have terrible taste in women. He thought you were special. Thought you were different from all the other whores who threw themselves at him for his money. He died calling your name. Did you know that? Marco's smile was cruel. I was there, in the hospital. Watched the digitalis do its work. Watched him clutch his chest and gasp. And you know what his last word was? Valentina. Not his brother. Not his family. You. Valentina felt like she'd been punched. You bastard. You killed your own brother. I freed the family from a weak leader. Marco grabbed her jaw, forcing her to look at him. Dante was going to destroy everything our father built. Going to run away with you like some lovesick teenager. He forgot what he was. What we are, I reminded him. The FBI knows. Valentina spoke clearly, making sure the wire picked up every word. I gave them copies of everything. All the evidence. The proof that you murdered Dante. Your deals with the Lucchese family. Everything. Marco's eyes narrowed. Then, moving faster than she expected, his hand shot out and grabbed her jacket, yanking it open. His fingers found the wire taped to her back. Well. He ripped it free, held it up for everyone to see. Hello, Agent Chen. I hope you're listening. He crushed the device under his heel. Valentina's heart stopped. The wire was destroyed. The FBI could no longer hear what was happening, but they could see. Chen had said they had visual surveillance. They knew things had gone wrong. They had to be moving in. Did you really think I wouldn't search you? Marco said softly, dangerously. Did you think I was as stupid as my brother? No, a new voice said from behind them. But I thought you might be too arrogant. Everyone turned. Sofia Castellano had somehow freed one hand and pulled a small gun from her boot. She aimed it directly at Marco. Drop your weapons. All of you. For a moment, no one moved. Then Marco started laughing. Sofia, loyal Sofia, you're going to shoot me. If I have to. Sofia's hand was steady. I was loyal to Dante, not to you. He told me what to do if anything happened to him. Told me to protect Valentina. So that's what I'm doing. You're outnumbered 6-1. Yes, Sofia agreed. But I only need to shoot you. Once you're dead, maybe these other men will remember who really pays their salary. The standoff stretched. Valentina could hear her own heartbeat thundering. Where was the FBI? Why weren't they moving? Then she heard it. The distant sound of vehicles approaching fast. Sirens. Multiple sirens. Marco heard it too. His expression shifted from smug confidence to fury. Kill them. Kill them both. Everything happened at once. Vincent Morales raised his gun. Sofia fired, the shot deafening in the enclosed space. Morales went down, screaming, clutching his shoulder. The other men scattered for cover. Marco grabbed Valentina, using her as a human shield, his own gun pressed against her temple. Everyone stop, he roared. The warehouse's main door exploded inward. FBI agents poured through, weapons drawn, wearing tactical gear. FBI, drop your weapons. But Marco was already backing toward a side exit, dragging Valentina with him. I'm walking out of here, he shouted. And she's coming with me. Anyone tries to stop me, I blow her brains out. Chen appeared in the doorway, gun trained on Marco. Let her go, Marco. It's over. We have all the evidence. Every dirty cop, every corrupt official, they're all being arrested right now. You've got nowhere to run. I always have somewhere to run. Marco kept moving backward. They were almost to the exit. This isn't over. It's never over. Valentina felt the gun barrel press harder against her skull. She thought about Dante, about his last words, about everything he'd sacrificed to give her this moment. She made her choice. Valentina drove her elbow back into Marco's ribs with all her strength. It wasn't much. She wasn't trained in combat. But it was enough. His grip loosened for just a second and she threw herself forward, dropping to the ground. Chen fired. The shot caught Marco in the shoulder, spinning him around. He fired back wildly, bullets ricocheting off metal. FBI agents returned fire. Marco went down, blood spreading across his expensive suit. And then it was over. Agents swarmed the warehouse. Vincent Morales and the other men were being handcuffed. Sofia was freed from her chair, immediately surrounded by agents checking her for injuries. Chen rushed to Valentina, helping her to her feet. Are you hurt? No, I don't think so. Valentina's ears were ringing from the gunfire. Everything felt surreal, like she was watching herself from outside her body. Across the warehouse, paramedics were working on Marco. He was alive, wounded, but alive. As they loaded him onto a stretcher, his eyes found Valentina's. Pure hatred burned there. This isn't over, he spat, blood on his teeth. You think you've won? You've just started a war. Chen stepped between them. The only war that's over is yours, Marco. Take him away. As the paramedics wheeled him out, Valentina felt her legs give out. Chen caught her, lowering her gently to sit on a nearby crate. It's okay. You're safe now, it's over. But Sophia, being checked by EMTs nearby, caught Valentina's eye. There was something in her expression, a warning, a knowledge of how these things really worked. It wasn't over. Not really, not yet. Men like Marco Caruso didn't go down quietly. They had resources, lawyers, connections that ran deeper than anyone knew. The evidence would put him away, yes. But his organization was vast, his allies numerous. Valentina had survived the battle, but the war was just beginning. Chen seemed to read her thoughts. We'll protect you, she said quietly. Protective custody, new identity if you want it, whatever you need. What about Sophia? Her too. Anyone Dante trusted will keep safe. Valentina looked around the warehouse, at the agents securing the scene, at the blood on the concrete floor, at the afternoon light filtering through the damaged roof. She thought about the girl she'd been 4 years ago, falling in love with a dangerous man. That girl was gone, burned away by betrayal and grief and the impossible weight of the truth. In her place was someone harder, someone who'd faced down a killer and survived. Someone who'd chosen to fight when running would have been easier. Dante had given her power. Now she knew what to do with it. I'll testify, she said to Chen, against Marco, against everyone in those files. I'll tell the truth about all of it. Chen smiled, small but genuine. Good, because we're going to need you. As they walked out of the warehouse together, Valentina pulled out her phone. It had been recording the entire time. A backup Chen had suggested, just in case the wire failed. She had Marco's confession, his admission of murder, everything they needed. One new message waited for her, from an unknown number. Just 3 words. Well done, Valentina. She stared at it, ice creeping down her spine. Who else knew? Who else was watching? But before she could think about it further, Chen was guiding her toward a waiting vehicle. Come on, let's get you somewhere safe. We have a lot of work ahead of us. Valentina took one last look at Warehouse 17, at the place where she'd almost died, where she'd instead found the courage to become someone new. Dante had been right. She was stronger than she knew, and she was just getting started. The safe house was a nondescript brownstone in Park Slope, Brooklyn, the kind of place that looked like every other building on the block, which was exactly the point. Valentina had been here for 3 days, and the walls were starting to close in. She stood at the window, watching rain streak down the glass. It was late afternoon, the sky the color of old bruises. Down on the street, an FBI agent pretended to walk his dog, the 3rd shift change she'd witnessed today. They were taking her protection seriously, at least. Behind her, Agent Chen worked at the dining table, surrounded by documents from Dante's storage unit. They'd been going through everything methodically, building the case that would dismantle what remained of Marco's organization. Valentina, Chen said, I need you to look at something. Valentina turned from the window. Chen had her laptop open, displaying what looked like financial records. What am I looking at? Offshore accounts. Dante kept meticulous records of every transaction Marco made over the past 18 months. Chen pointed at the screen. But look at this one. $3 million transferred to an account in the Cayman Islands 2 days before Dante died. The account belongs to someone named Elena Volkov. The name meant nothing to Valentina. Who is she? That's the problem. We can't find her. No criminal record, no known address in the U.S., nothing. But Dante flagged this transaction with a note. Insurance policy. ER. Chen looked up. Do you know what ER means? Valentina shook her head. Dante had a lot of secrets, even from me. Well, whatever this is, Marco paid a lot of money for it, and Dante thought it was important enough to. Chen's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and her expression shifted. It's Novak. I need to take this. She stepped into the next room. Valentina returned to the window, her mind churning. $3 million. An insurance policy. What had Marco been planning that required that kind of investment? Chen returned 5 minutes later, her face grim. We have a problem. What kind of problem? Sophia's missing. Valentina's blood ran cold. What do you mean missing? She was in protective custody at a bureau facility in Queens. At 2 p.m. she asked to use the bathroom. The agent escorting her waited outside. After 10 minutes, they checked on her. Window was open. Sophia was gone. Chen ran a hand through her hair. There's no sign of forced entry, no indication of a struggle. She just left. Maybe she ran. Maybe she got scared and decided to disappear. Maybe. But Chen didn't sound convinced. Or maybe she was never the victim we thought she was. The words hung in the air between them. Valentina thought about Sophia at the warehouse, tied to that chair, blood on her temple, playing the damsel in distress, then pulling a gun and shooting Vincent Morales without hesitation. The woman had been convincing, but what if it had all been an act? You think she's working with Marco? I think we don't know whose side she's really on. Chen pulled up another file on her laptop. I've been digging into Sophia's background. She's been Dante's business partner for 8 years, helped him legitimize his operations, turned dirty money into clean investments. But here's the interesting part. Before she met Dante, she worked for the Lucchese family. As an accountant, Valentina felt the floor shift beneath her feet. Marco allied with the Luccheses. Exactly. What if Sophia never left them? What if she was inside Dante's organization all along, feeding information to his enemies? But Dante trusted her. He left her $43 million. Or he was testing her. Think about it. If Sophia was a plant, giving her that much money would force her to show her hand eventually. And Dante left you the evidence that would expose everyone, including her. Chen met Valentina's eyes. He gave you the power to destroy them all. Maybe that included Sophia. Valentina's mind raced back through everything that had happened. Sophia at the will reading, showing no surprise at her inheritance. Sophia reaching out to propose an alliance. Sophia somehow knowing to bring a gun to the warehouse, somehow freeing herself at exactly the right moment. Had it all been choreographed? We need to find her, Valentina said. We're trying. But Valentina, if Sophia is working with Marco's people, then she knows everything. Where you are, what evidence we have, our entire investigation. Chen's phone buzzed again. She looked at it and swore softly. Novak wants us at the field office. Now, something's happening. The FBI field office was chaos when they arrived. Agents rushed through corridors, phones rang constantly, and the air crackled with barely controlled panic. Novak met them in the hallway, her expression carved from stone. We have a situation, she said without preamble. 40 minutes ago, someone leaked portions of Dante's files to the media. Not all of it, just enough to cause maximum damage. What? Chen looked stricken. How is that possible? Those files are locked down. The leak came from inside the bureau. Novak's voice was flat. One of the corrupt agents Dante documented. We're trying to identify who, but in the meantime, every news outlet in the city is running stories about NYPD detectives on the Caruso payroll. 3 have already been arrested. 2 more are in the wind. Valentina felt sick. This is going to expose everyone. That's the point. Someone wants chaos. They want our investigation compromised, witnesses intimidated, evidence called into question. Novak turned her sharp gaze on Valentina. Ms. Moretti, I need you to understand something. The people in those files, corrupt cops, crooked lawyers, dirty politicians, they all have something to lose. Some of them will cooperate to save themselves, but others will fight back. And right now, you're the person who can hurt them most. You're saying they'll come after me. I'm saying they already are. We've intercepted chatter about a contract. $500,000 to whoever delivers you, dead or alive, to Marco's people. The number hit Valentina like a physical blow. $500,000. That was enough to motivate every criminal and desperate person in the city. Chen stepped closer. We can move you. Different safe house, maybe out of state. It won't matter. Sophia's voice came from behind them. Everyone spun. Sofia Castellano stood at the end of the hallway, flanked by 2 agents. She looked exactly as she had at the warehouse. Elegant, composed, completely in control. But there was something different in her eyes now. A hardness that hadn't been there before. How did you get in here? Novak demanded. I walked through the front door. Sophia smiled slightly. Told them I had information about Marco's operations, which I do. But first I needed to make sure Valentina was safe. You escaped protective custody, Chen said coldly. Why would we trust anything you say? Because I'm not your enemy. I never was. Sophia looked directly at Valentina. Dante told me this would happen. He said if he died, everything would fall apart. The FBI would investigate, Marco would strike back, and you would be caught in the middle. He asked me to do whatever it took to keep you alive. By disappearing? By making us think you'd betrayed us? By finding the one person who could actually stop Marco. Sophia pulled a phone from her pocket and held it up. I spent the last 3 days tracking down Elena Volkov, the woman Marco paid $3 million to, 2 days before Dante died. I found her. Novak moved closer. Where is she? Here, in New York. And she's willing to testify, but only if we can guarantee her safety. Because Elena Volkov isn't just some contract killer or accountant. Sophia's smile turned cold. She's Marco's wife, his secret wife, and she knows everything. The revelation hit like a bomb. Novak immediately started barking orders. Agents scrambling to verify the information, to locate Elena Volkov, to bring her in safely. But Valentina barely heard it. Her mind was reeling. Marco had a wife. A secret wife he'd paid $3 million to right before murdering his brother. Which meant what? Insurance? Leverage? A backup plan if everything went wrong? Sophia moved to stand beside Valentina. Up close, she could see the exhaustion in the older woman's face, the tension around her eyes. I know you don't trust me. I wouldn't either. But Dante did. He told me about you, about how much he loved you, how he regretted pushing you away. He said if anything happened to him, I should make sure you survived, so that's what I'm doing. Why didn't you just tell us this from the beginning? Because I had to make sure Elena was real, that she'd actually cooperate. Marco's people are everywhere, including inside the FBI. If I'd told you what I knew before confirming it, Elena would be dead and we'd have nothing. Sophia touched Valentina's arm. Dante left us both pieces of the puzzle. You got the evidence. I got the witness. Together we can finish what he started. Before Valentina could respond, Novak returned. We've located Elena Volkov. She's in a hotel in Queens, traveling under a false passport. We're bringing her in now. She looked between Sophia and Valentina. Ms. Castellano, you're officially back in protective custody. Ms. Moretti, you're coming too. If what you're saying is true, we need all of you in the same secure location until we can verify everything. There's something else, Sophia said quietly. Marco escaped. The words fell like stones into water. Chen's face went white. What are you talking about? He was in federal custody, under guard. He was being transported to the courthouse for his arraignment. The prison van was ambushed on the Queensboro Bridge. 3 guards dead, Marco gone. Sophia's voice was steady, but Valentina could hear the fear beneath it. It happened an hour ago. The Bureau's trying to keep it quiet, but it's already hitting the news. Novak swore viciously. How the hell did this happen? Money, fear. The same way everything happens with people like Marco. Sophia looked at Valentina. He's coming for us. Both of us. And he won't stop until we're dead, or he is. Valentina felt strangely calm. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was the realization that she'd always known it would come to this. A final confrontation where only one side would walk away. Then let him come, she heard herself say. We have everything we need to destroy him. His wife's testimony. Dante's evidence. The media already turning on his organization. Marco's desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. Desperate people also kill indiscriminately. Novak said sharply. We need to lock all of you down until we can... Her phone rang. She answered, listened, and her expression shifted from frustration to something darker. When she hung up, she looked at Sophia. Elena Volkov is dead. Someone got to her before our agents arrived. Single gunshot to the head, professional execution. The hotel room was clean. No witnesses, no evidence. Whoever did this knew exactly where she was. Silence crashed over them. Their key witness, gone. The insurance policy Marco had paid for, cashed out permanently. Without Elena's testimony, they had evidence, but no one to connect Marco directly to the digitalis poisoning. No way to prove premeditation. He killed his own wife, Chen breathed. To protect himself. No. Sophia's voice was ice. He killed her because someone told him where she was. Someone in this building. She looked around at the agents, the busy office, the controlled chaos. Marco has people everywhere. We're not safe here. Novak's jaw set. Then we end this now. We use you both as bait. Draw Marco out into the open where we can take him down permanently. That's insane, Chen protested. You're talking about putting 2 civilian witnesses directly in harm's way. We're already in harm's way, Valentina interrupted. She felt it now. The clarity Dante must have felt in his final hours. The understanding that sometimes the only way through was forward. Marco won't stop. Not while we're alive, not while the evidence exists. So we force the endgame. We choose the battlefield. Sophia nodded slowly. Dante used to say the same thing. Never let your enemy choose when or where the war ends. You choose. Novak looked between them. You're sure about this? No, Valentina admitted. But I'm doing it anyway. All right. Novak pulled out her phone. Then we do it properly. Controlled environment, maximum tactical support. We make Marco think he's winning right up until the moment we close the trap. She started typing rapidly. I know a place. Red Hook Pier. Isolated, easy to secure, multiple sight lines for our snipers. We leak the location through one of our suspected corrupt agents, make sure it gets back to Marco. When? Sophia asked. Tonight. Midnight. We don't give him time to plan, time to bring in more people. Just him and whoever he can scramble on short notice walking into a kill box we control. Novak looked up. But I need absolute commitment from both of you. No backing out once this starts. Valentina thought about Dante's last letter. You're stronger than you know. You survived me. You can survive this. I'm in, she said. Sophia nodded. So am I. Then let's end this, Novak said. As agents began mobilizing around them, Chen pulled Valentina aside. I need to tell you something, just in case things go wrong tonight. Don't. Whatever you're about to say sounds like a goodbye, and we're not doing that. Valentina, we're going to survive this. Both of us. We're going to testify, put Marco and everyone else away, and then I'm going to figure out how to live a normal life again. Valentina surprised herself with a small laugh. Whatever that means. Chen smiled, genuine warmth breaking through her professional composure. Okay, but for the record, you're one of the bravest people I've ever met. Dante was right about you. The words stayed with Valentina as they prepared for the operation. As she was fitted with body armor beneath her jacket, given instructions on where to stand and when to move, briefed on hand signals and emergency protocols, the FBI was preparing for war, and she was the bait at the center of it. Sophia caught her eye across the room. The older woman raised her hand in a small salute. Acknowledgement, respect, solidarity. Valentina returned it. They were ready. At 11:30 p.m., Valentina and Sophia climbed into an unmarked FBI vehicle. The drive to Red Hook took 20 minutes, moving through a city that glittered with ordinary life, people in restaurants, couples walking home from bars, the normal rhythms of a Wednesday night in New York. None of them knew what was about to happen at the pier. The waterfront was deserted when they arrived. Fog rolled off the East River, thick and cold, turning the world into a scene from a noir film. Red Hook Pier stretched into the darkness, old wooden planks creaking under their weight. Shipping containers were stacked nearby, perfect cover for the FBI tactical teams Novak had positioned throughout the area. Positions, everyone. Novak's voice came through their earpieces. Ms. Moretti, Ms. Castellano, you're center stage. Remember, we need Marco to incriminate himself on tape. Make him talk about Dante, about the murder, about everything. We get his confession. We have him. Valentina and Sophia stood in the middle of the pier, exposed and vulnerable. The fog swirled around them. Somewhere in the darkness, FBI snipers watched through night vision scopes. Other agents waited in the shadows, ready to move. But for now, they were alone. Are you scared? Valentina asked Sophia quietly. Terrified, Sophia admitted. But I've been terrified for 8 years, working alongside Dante, knowing what he really was. This is almost a relief. Knowing the fear will end tonight, one way or another. Valentina understood that. The fear had become so constant it was almost background noise. Tonight would bring clarity, resolution, an ending. At 11:57 p.m., headlights appeared in the distance. We have movement, Novak's voice said. Multiple vehicles approaching. Stay calm, stay in position. The headlights grew closer. 3 black SUVs pulled up to the pier's entrance, stopping about 50 yards away. Doors opened. Men emerged. Valentina counted 8 of them, all armed, all moving with the confidence of people who'd done violence before and would do it again. And at the center, stepping into the foggy light, was Marco Caruso. He looked different than he had at the warehouse. The expensive suit was gone, replaced by dark tactical clothing. His shoulder was bandaged where Chen had shot him, but he moved without hesitation. His face was a mask of cold fury. Valentina, he called across the distance. Sophia, I have to admit I'm impressed. Not many people would be stupid enough to face me directly. We're not stupid, Valentina called back. We're done running. Marco laughed, the sound echoing off the shipping containers. Done running? Or done living? Because that's what tonight is. The end of both of you and the end of my idiot brother's final attempt to destroy this family. Dante didn't try to destroy the family, Sophia said. her voice carrying clearly. He tried to save it. From you. Save it? Marco started walking toward them, his men fanning out behind him. He was going to abandon everything. Run away with this whore. He gestured at Valentina. And let the empire our father built crumble. He forgot what we are. What we've always been. Murderers, Valentina said flatly. You're murderers, and you killed your own brother because he wanted something better. Marco stopped about 20 feet away. This close, Valentina could see the madness in his eyes. The fury of a man who'd lost control and was trying to take it back through violence. I freed him, Marco said softly. From weakness. From the delusion that people like us can ever be anything other than what we are. Dante thought love could save him. It just made him soft, made him vulnerable. His hand moved to the gun at his hip. I won't make the same mistake. Then do it, Valentina heard herself say. Shoot me. Just admit what you did first. Tell me how you murdered Dante. Make his death mean something. For a moment, Marco just stared at her. Then, incredibly, he smiled. You want a confession? Fine. I'll give you one. Dante was poisoned with digitalis. Slow-acting, undetectable unless you know what to look for. I slipped it into his coffee the morning he died. Watched him drink it down. Watched him think he was having a heart attack. I was there when he died, Valentina. Heard him call your name. And you know what I felt? Relief. That finally, I was free of him. The words hung in the fog. That's enough. Novak's voice cut through the night. FBI, drop your weapons. You're surrounded. Floodlights exploded to life, turning the pier into day. FBI agents emerged from behind containers, weapons drawn. Red laser sights dotted Marco's men. The trap had sprung perfectly, but Marco didn't drop his gun. Instead, he raised it, pointing directly at Valentina. You think I'm afraid of prison? I'd rather die right here than spend my life in a cage. Everything slowed down. Valentina saw Marco's finger tighten on the trigger. Saw Sophia move, trying to shield her. Saw the FBI agents shouting, closing in. And then she heard the crack of a gunshot. Not from Marco's gun, but from somewhere behind her. Marco jerked backward. A red bloom spreading across his chest. His gun fell from nerveless fingers. He looked down at the wound, then up at Valentina, his expression almost confused. Like he couldn't believe this was how it ended. He collapsed. FBI agents swarmed the pier. Marco's men, realizing they were outnumbered and outgunned, dropped their weapons and surrendered. It was over in seconds. 8 criminals in custody, Marco bleeding out on the wooden planks, the fog beginning to lift as the first light of dawn touched the horizon. Chen ran to Valentina, checking her for injuries. Are you hit? Are you okay? I'm fine, Valentina's voice broke. Is he dead? Paramedics rushed past them toward Marco. One checked his pulse, worked quickly, then looked at Novak and shook his head. Marco Caruso, who'd killed his brother and threatened to burn down everything Dante had built, was gone. Sophia stood nearby, looking down at Marco's body. It's over, she said quietly. Finally, it's over. But as the fog cleared and the sun began to rise over Red Hook, Valentina wasn't sure that was true. Yes, Marco was dead. His organization was shattered. The corrupt officials were being arrested. Justice of a sort had been served. But Dante was still gone, and nothing would ever bring him back. Chen touched her arm gently. Come on, let's get you out of here. As they walked back toward the FBI vehicles, Valentina took one last look at the pier, at the place where it had all ended, where the game Dante had started with his final will had reached its conclusion. She'd survived. Against impossible odds, she'd survived. Now came the hard part, learning how to live. 6 months later, spring had finally arrived in New York. Valentina stood outside Columbia University's School of Social Work, watching students stream past her with their backpacks and coffee cups, their young faces full of purpose. She clutched her acceptance letter, the real one this time, not just the dream she'd carried for so long. Her phone buzzed. Sophia, coffee after your tour? We need to discuss the Tribeca property. Valentina smiled. Sophia Castellano had become an unlikely ally. Together they'd transformed Dante's legitimate businesses into something genuinely clean. The restaurants thrived. The real estate portfolio expanded. The import company actually imported legal goods now. They'd built something real from the ashes. Ms. Moretti? A young woman approached hesitantly. I'm sorry to bother you, but you're the one who testified against the Caruso family, right? I saw you on the news. Valentina tensed. old instincts flaring. But the woman's face held only curiosity, maybe admiration. Yes, that was me. That took incredible courage. My sister was caught up with dangerous people. Seeing you stand up like that, it helped her find the strength to leave. The woman smiled. Thank you. She walked away before Valentina could respond. Courage. Was that what it had been? Or just survival, dressed up in nobler clothing? Valentina wasn't sure anymore. The trial had been brutal. Weeks of testimony, reliving every moment, facing down the remaining members of Marco's organization, who glared at her from the defendant's table. But she'd done it. Every single one of them had been convicted. Agent Chen said it was the biggest organized crime prosecution in New York history. 37 people indicted, 29 convicted. The NYPD had cleaned house. 3 corrupt FBI agents were facing federal charges. Even Judge Weinstein had resigned in disgrace. Dante's evidence had changed everything. Later, sitting across from Sophia in a cafe near Washington Square Park, Valentina watched the older woman review financial reports with the same precision she'd once used to launder Dante's money. But now those skills served legitimate purposes. The Tribeca property closes next week, Sophia said. We'll renovate, flip it within the year. Projected profit is $2.3 million. She looked up. Your half goes into your trust fund, as usual. At this rate, you'll be financially secure for life. I don't want his money, Sophia. It's not his money anymore, it's yours. You earned it. Sophia's expression softened. Dante would be proud of you. What you've built. Who you've become. This is what he wanted. For you to be free to choose your own path. Valentina traced the rim of her coffee cup. Do you think he knew? That it would end the way it did? I think he knew Marco would try to kill him. And I think he prepared the best gift he could. The truth and the power to decide what to do with it. Sophia paused. He loved you, Valentina. Imperfectly, dangerously, but genuinely. Let that be enough. After Sophia left, Valentina walked to Greenwood Cemetery. She made this trip once a month now, not from obligation but from something gentler, understanding maybe, or acceptance. Dante's grave was simple, despite his wealth. A granite headstone, his name, his dates, nothing about what he'd been or done, just a man who'd lived and died. Valentina placed fresh flowers beside the stone, white roses, his favorite. I got into Columbia, she told him quietly. Starting in the fall, social work program. I want to help people get out of situations like what we had. Give them choices. The spring wind rustled through the cemetery trees. Somewhere birds sang. I forgive you, she said, for pushing me away, for the secrets, for leaving me with this impossible burden. I understand now. You gave me the only gift you knew how to give, freedom, even if it came wrapped in pain. She sat on the grass beside his grave, letting the sun warm her face. 6 months ago, she couldn't have imagined this peace, this ability to remember him without drowning in grief or rage. But time had softened the edges, let her see the complicated truth of what they'd been to each other. A love story, a tragedy, a war, all of it tangled together. Her phone buzzed. Chen, drinks tonight? I have news about the Senator Lynch case. Valentina typed back. Can't. Classic Columbia. Tomorrow? Chen. Perfect. Proud of you, by the way. Standing, Valentina brushed grass from her jeans. She took one last look at Dante's grave, at the name carved in stone, the flowers she'd brought, the peaceful spot beneath the old oak tree. Goodbye, she whispered. Not forever. She'd come back. But each visit, the weight grew lighter. Each month, she belonged a little less to his memory and a little more to her own future. As she walked through the cemetery gates, Valentina pulled out the acceptance letter and read it again. Columbia University, a master's degree, a career helping others escape the darkness she'd survived. Dante had given her power. She'd chosen redemption. His last will had been rewritten in those final hours. But so had hers, written in blood and courage and the stubborn refusal to let the past define her future. The city stretched before her, vast and full of possibility. Valentina stepped into it, no longer running, no longer hiding, just moving forward, one deliberate step at a time into the life Dante had died to give her, free at last.